Hello, I'm Travis Fish, and I'm joined by my co-host Tom Rees, and we've worked in UK hospitality operations for our whole career. This is the Ops Club podcast, a show in which Tom and I discuss what's really going on in UK hospitality, or at least in our small corner of it. And each week, we'll be talking to a different industry operator about how they're coping and what's on their mind right now. Hello, Tom.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm well, thank you.
What did you get up to the weekend?
As usual, not a huge amount. Family bits. We had a quick trip up to Nottingham, and just wrestling the children into various activities. The joys of potty training.
I think actually wrestling with the children. Yeah.
Basically for lots of different reasons. Yes. Nothing. Just all that good, wholesome family stuff, right?
Absolutely, lovely stuff.
What about you?
I wasn't really doing wholesome anything. I had what we call a shitty break in Kettering.
Is that a new thing?
Well, I'll give a little plug to one of my good friends, Ben Aitken, he's a writer and he's written a book about some of the least visited cities in the UK. So it's kind of
Excellent.
It's called Shitty Breaks, which is a slightly disingenuous title because it's actually a sort of love letter to an ode to the path less followed. And so in the spirit of that, we took one of our friends, Charlie, to Kettering for his birthday. So we had a weekend in Kettering, which we had a great time. We met some real characters. The people of Kettering were very, very welcome.
You didn't go to the Peacock, did you?
No, but we did go past it. I was there. No, we ate in a out of a garden shed that was serving spaghetti called Spaghetti Rock. The charming proprietor.
Amazing. The Peacock was part of my region of pubs at one point.
Oh yeah, right. So you know Kettering.
Yeah. The landlord. Well, I don't know that well, but the landlord had been there 25 years when I first stepped foot in it, and that was a good 10 years ago now. So it's quite a place, Kettering.
Yeah. Well, it's just so. There's a place called the Blitz Cafe, which is a 1940s themed sort of World War II cafe, which is where we started off, which was amazing, run by two charming Armenian ladies. It's just strange to begin with.
Amazing.
And then everyone in there was just chatting to us. They were great. A lovely lady called Pauline was disparaging Ben's fashion choices immediately. It was great. Really nice people, really chatty. Unfortunately, there just isn't that much to do in Kettering.
Did you run out of things to do then?
No, well, we ended up walking up and down the same bit of the high street, like a lot. I think it's just obviously it's like a lot of places, a lot of small towns just struggling a bit, There's gaps on the high street and it kind of showed. But we had an unbelievable evening in a social club. Found a little social club that were doing a local Real Ale festival and had some live music and an amazing jazz band. I think they were called the Macarons.
Amazing.
And they were genuinely really brilliant. And they're great real ales. I bought a round of 4 beers. It was £12.80. I was absolutely loving it, mate.
Beautiful.
And we all reflected on just how sort of warm and friendly people were. I don't know if that's a Midlands trait. I mean, having grown up in. Did you grow up in Nottingham?
Yeah, I did grow up in Nottingham, but I think it's like I don't know if this is the extension, but it does remind me of when we were talking to Natasha, our guest today, and talking about Northern hospitality. Does it extend into Midlands hospitality as well?
Well, maybe there's 3 distinct modes of hospitality
types
in England. Forget Wales and Scotland for a minute. There's Southern hospitality, Midland hospitality, and Northern hospitality. But yeah, we definitely talked to Natasha about Northern hospitality and had a great chat. So should we just dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. Enjoy, everyone. Catch you all later.
This episode is brought to you by Williams, Stanley & Company, modern accountants for ambitious hospitality brands. From accounting and payroll to smarter data systems, they give you clear numbers you can actually use to run the week, not just file at year-end. If you want a partner who knows hospitality and moves fast, talk to Williams, Stanley & Company. Learn more at williamsstanley.com. ops.co.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ops Club podcast. We've got Tom here alongside me again. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
And we're joined today by Natasha Waterfield, who is an operator I've admired for many years. We'll get into how she first came into my awareness probably over 10 years ago. And we're going to talk to her today about her journey and some of her, I guess, like insights, having been both a people director, COO, CEO, and person across hospitality for the last, I don't know, 10 or more years, 20 years. So yeah, welcome, Natasha. And yeah, why don't we start off with a bit of a background on you and like your journey through hospitality?
Oh, well, hi, everybody. Yeah, you've kind of summed it up really well there. Kind of came into hospitality around probably 15 years ago. I was actually in the engineering industry before that. Yeah, very different. But in the HR space, went on a graduate scheme doing HR, but kind of felt that once I'd completed that, I couldn't really make any difference in that kind of industry. There was no influence that I could really have. I'd just moved to Manchester. Obviously, at the time, the scene was thriving there. It was all the living ventures born out of Manchester. Really admired the industry. Thought it was an industry that really could benefit from a strong investment and some structure behind its development of people and trying to make it an opportunity and a job that people would want to do. So took a role with them, exited with Living Ventures across to New World, got the people director role, did 5 years in that, transitioned over to a COO role, which I'm sure we'll probably go into a little bit later, a little bit of an unusual transition. Left there for a competitive socialising company, and then for a leisure company from there. And then, yeah, that was kind of been in.
Amazing. I love it. Like, most people have a sort of origin story of I was washing pots and then I sort of got stuck in the industry and then I sort of realised I loved it and always thought I was going to do something else. I love the fact that you were doing something else and you came into hospitality like actively. What was it about hospitality that you thought, oh, I really like it? That sort of, is it just the dynamism of it?
I think it was how much people is the product, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think there are so many industries where it's about what you create, what you build, or the physical product that you sell. Whereas a dining or and socialising experience is just driven by the people behind it. Obviously, the food and the menu and the curation and the drinks, really important, but they can all be broken completely by a standard of service. And even mediocre food can be an excellent experience if the people that are kind of creating the atmosphere in that place are the ones. So I think that kind of attracted me. It kind of felt like a place also a little bit underrepresented in the HR and people space. I don't think it was really viewed as somewhere that was leading in people practices or a place where people were going directly to grow their careers. So I think those kind of things, the opportunity, but also the influence that people have.
You were on a grad scheme, you, I guess, completed your grad scheme in engineering. Like, how did you even find like a hospitality people job? Like, it feels like quite an unusual route.
Obviously, at the time, I was in my early 20s, kind of like 2022, going out a lot, experiencing kind of the bars and the restaurants, and found that they were all kind of grouped and owned by one particular vehicle, which was the Ventures at the time. I knew their office was in Knutsford, kind of connected with them, followed, explored if they had any HR opportunities by reaching out, and then they got a HR advisor position come up, which is a bit of a step down from what I was doing. But I thought, I really want to go in here and make a difference. So a bit of proactive outreach, really, but then the opportunity arose.
Amazing. And obviously you had like an incredible rise, like your career trajectory is amazing. Do you think you would have been in all these senior positions in manufacturing if you stayed there?
No. Because the box is too small, as in you're put in a box.
Yeah, right.
And from manufacturing, what they wanted from a people space was they wanted a service, really, a shared service, contracts producing, minutes taken, benefits processing. Whereas hospitality had that ability and freedom to innovate and create.
Yeah.
And the brands that I was working with were really about innovation. So I wouldn't have been able to do some things that were necessarily pioneering that propelled my career if I was in another industry, I don't believe.
That's like a great message for hospitality, because I think sometimes we have got a bit of a hangover in hospitality, sort of perceived and sometimes a reality of the people it's the sort of low skilled jobs. It's the thing you do before you go and get a real job. And I think that sometimes it's because we have a really low barrier to entry in the industry, and so we kind of let lots of people in who don't really want to be here, don't deal with them quick enough to sort of move them out if they're not quite right for hospitality. So you get lots of dissenting voices because they blame their job for long hours. It is long hours, it's hard work, and sometimes it can be not amazing pay. But I've also witnessed, personally, good pay, loads of fun, real progression, real opportunity, excitement, and there's loads of exciting opportunity to move fast and learn loads of skills. And I think sometimes we don't talk about, or we allow the perception of the industry to get talked about rather than really promote what the opportunities are in the industry. Ops Club is really focusing on operators. I want to talk about the movement between HR and ops. Did you find it like two worlds completely different, or it was a seamless move?
A bit of both, really. I think because the business is driven by people and all the processes, all the procedures, all the operating methods that they have, they're all delivered by people. People are involved in all of them. I know we'll probably come on to tech advancements later on, but primarily you need the people and their behaviours to enable tech to work. So I think the fact that my experience was grounded in being able to create systems and processes and environments where people can perform and grow, I think that transitioned over really well. And obviously at this point I'd been in this business for kind of 6 years and had been sitting around the board table for 5 of those, so I knew the operating models and methodologies and the P&L and everything inside out anyway. So the thing that was more difficult for me going across was probably the pace, because in my previous role there was a lot more time to kind of scope and to plan things out and to then measure and initiate change and manage change in a way that lands well. Whereas in kind of the COO seat, whilst there were periodic changes like your menus and things like that you can plan for, there was so much that you had to react to really quickly and at a quick pace, but still do it in a way that gets people to come on that journey with you. That was a difficult transition for me. And I think at first, if I'm being completely honest, I probably went way too far the other way. I think when I first took the role, I was kind of marching up the hills and making all the changes and kind of looking back, and there was probably a few people behind me and not the whole crowd, because I'd kind of thought I have to go from one extreme to another now of making change happen quick and fast, whereas actually the sweet spot was probably nearer to where I was in the people space than what I tried to emulate.
Is that sort of because you think that's the way either you'd seen it done, or is it the way that people told you it should be done, or like what do you think made you feel that?
Probably a combination of those things, but also a lot in my own head. Kind of don't know how much to kind of talk about it really, but I was kind of a young female first going into the COO role at that age. I was in like late 20s and everybody around me was, at that time, there's so much more progression now, but at that time that was a kind of a rarity. And also because my career history wasn't grounded in ops, and then suddenly I was ops for 1,500 people, I think I kind of talked myself into needing to try and prove and gain my credibility. So now I reflect on it.
Sure, and I think the more experience you get, you look back and you think, well, I didn't need to know everything. I just needed to know how to find the information, right? And I guess when we were on a grad scheme together, and we kind of got spun out at the end of that scheme and needed to get jobs as ops managers, basically. And I would look back on it and think, like, we were pretty young, didn't really know what on earth we were doing. Had loads of fun, made loads of mistakes, but really thought I need to know everything, sort of the minute detail, to have the credibility to talk to a 35, 45-year-old pub manager who's been around for ages. And ultimately had enough like bravado and sort of self-confidence at the time to be like, well, if we get to a sticky spot, like I'm not going anywhere, so one of us will. If you can't get on board, it'll be you that goes, and that kind of vibe. But that's not engaging people. That's not bringing them on board. That's just a sort of fight or flight thing. And it took me quite a while to get, even though I was, in ops all the way through, it took me quite a while to shake that I've got to know every single minute detail to be really confident in standing up in front of them. And, everyone goes through that.
That is probably what learning leadership is being confident to say, actually, it's your decision, or, actually, I don't know, I think we need to go find out. Like that, being vulnerable and being okay with, not being in charge all the time is probably what you do learn, 20 years down the line.
I think I also needed an opportunity to, whilst I had credibility in kind of the leadership role from all the successes and amazing things we'd built in the people space, I think I needed that kind of proof point in that COO role, that opportunity to gain the credibility as kind of an operator, because I was also looking after marketing and sales at that point as well. And whilst it was something that we don't really want to talk about at the time because it was difficult, and we've talked about it to death, is COVID. I could apply quite well my learnings and my history to COVID, and that was an example of a time where I could prove kind of commercial credibility and keep a business and its people alive, and the business in good health, and also the supplier relationships, everything like that, to come out, then to go on an opening to open 8 more sites. That kind of gave me a bit of a platform to go, actually, she knows what she's doing in that commercial area.
COVID was such a strange time. I vividly remember having a conversation with a really senior operator who's now, I think, chief exec of a big company, and we were talking about some forecasting stuff, and it was like the rug got pulled under from under every operator, and I mean, no one had a clue. And it was like there's no data to base anything on if everyone was using lots of data, and everyone was just running on like instinct and gut feel and what the hell is going on. And it was a real kind of weird moment of like resetting, making some really hard decisions, but I think that was a wild time. So where were you through that? New World?
Yeah, at New World,
Like incredible business, obviously gone through a bit of change and coming out the other side. Did you enjoy your time there? What was the like?
Yeah, I was there for 8.5 years, so I kind of grew up through that business, and obviously that was the kind of the business that opened up all of the opportunities for me in both the people space, board seats and exposure, and in the operating seat as well. And I think it was also just a great kind of ride of momentum, because there was a lot of people that worked there for a long time that were able to kind of open more sites, new concepts, try new things. The innovation space in the business was really high. There was a lot of kind of incredible success in both the people space and in the wider business. And I think that was something that would be very hard to get again, personally, for your own experience. So yeah, absolutely loved it. It was the best time in my career.
I remember talking to some of my GMs and ops team in a company I worked for that got bought out eventually, and we were on an absolute flyer. We had replaced tons of people. We'd been through the hard yards. Everyone had held their nose through the difficult bits, and we were growing massively. Investments were paying off, and it was good. It was a really great vibe. I just remember saying, this is not normal, by the way. This is not... Enjoy this, because this is like everyone's smashing it, earning bonuses, loving it, really good atmosphere. So this doesn't always happen. This is, really suck it up. Sounds like that was a sort of similar moment, and you're right, it's rare. And sometimes you don't know if you haven't been through it before or been through tough times. You talked a lot about innovation, and one of the things, and we were talking about it before we started, was an amazing thing you did there called Tribes. It was, they said it was a while ago, so you might not remember all the details, but this was written about a lot, and a piece of really genuine innovation, I think. Tell us a bit about it and how it worked.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago now, but obviously, still quite prominent in my mind. But basically, we were about 8 sites, and I think our CEO at the time, Chris Hill, was really conscious about growing the business and maintaining kind of the connectivity and the culture. And I think at that time, scaling out from the north to pockets of the south was just a very different strategy. A lot of businesses had growing through London and the surrounding boroughs, so people could be connected a lot easier. They can swap people across sites, etc. And then the others were those big pubcos that obviously the sheer scale made them stand out. It was him, actually. He actually had an idea one day that he thought that it'd be good if we could do something where we mix the people across the businesses in some way, but obviously not kind of physically, but and connected them. So that's kind of where Tribes was born, really. So everybody that joined the business got put into, think of kind of Harry Potter houses. It's the easiest way to think about it. School houses, yes, if you're not born in Coventry like me.
Well, I didn't go to a posh school, but we did have school. We had after rivers.
I didn't have any houses. Barely tried to make it through the day without fight being announced. So kind of like Harry Potter houses is my kind of draw to. Basically, all named after kind of a big exploring ships with the New World Trading Company theme. When you joined a business, you would be sorted into a house, and basically you'd be in one of different houses, and one of the 6 different houses, but everybody in your site would be in different houses. And then we brought everybody together they competed all year through different challenges, some in person, some online, because we built an app as well, basically, that you signed up, you joined, you spun, here I am, you're in this house, and then you could talk to everyone in your house on there, and there was kind of connected news feeds and things. And then there'd be physical competitions and in person, so they'd range from things like chess competitions to big Wet and Wild competitions through to talent shows.
What's the Wet and Wild competition?
Oh, that sounds bad, doesn't it? No, it was like an adventure inflatable on a water in wetsuits.
Okay.
And then you'd compete, and then the winning tribe at the end of the year. So everybody in that winning tribe. So that got to a point of about 400 people in each would get an extra 2 days holiday per year. The top earners across the business would go on a holiday. There'd be prizes throughout, and it basically was just a way to connect people, because everyone would rally around these really different challenges through the year, and there was daily quizzes and things like that, and just earn more points by doing things.
Was there some work related, like in-house competitions? And
no, so that was
all
one
like
of the
cultural...
things. That was there was so many different people who'd come to me at different points, met a lot of operators. Can we tie this in with Tribes?
I was thinking about upselling.
Upselling. And I was really
reduce labour.
No, I was, and I was
Sales,
lucky.
please.
I was lucky enough to have Chris agree with me on this, the CEO. As soon as you put anything to do with work on there, I think it loses what we were trying to build, which was authentic community and connection, and the competitions to be driven by the individuals and things that they want to do. If they want to challenge their other tribe at chess, if they want to set up a challenge to national football competitions, and these individuals were organising them and suggesting them themselves. I think as soon as I put in how many pints of Guinness can you sell this St. Patrick's Day on Tribes, I think it would just lose the engagement. Also, I guess, so I say fortunate, I probably shouldn't stop saying it because it downplays things, but I pitched a lot to our investors at the time on how to track this from an ROI perspective, because it took a lot of investment, because we also had somebody managing it full time as well. We really had to kind of each year demonstrate, which I did to the board, but yeah, it was really amazing.
How were you measuring it? Like, what were the things that you ended up saying, we think we can tie these things back? So
a couple of things. Obviously, like the standard things that you'd measure, which is obviously all the engagement rates on the app and with the platform, which were in the north of 80% constantly, which is really high for a communication internal platform. Yeah. I then started to ask our partner for our mystery diners to help me build an EMPS ability to track, so we started tracking that. And I tracked that against NPS and against sales and kind of correlated that throughout the year. And there was deviations where it didn't correlate, but mostly it completely correlated, of about a 2 to 3 month lag between all of them. Wow. So kind of trying to prove the investment in the people and how happy and engaged they are, in how the outturn can affect ultimately the profitability. And then obviously turnover and retention and those kind of things, which all improved once they felt that not everybody, but they belonged. It was a challenge in the kitchens.
Yeah, and that's in my experience, is a hard part of the business to reach. Could be a cultural thing, could be a language thing, could just be because those guys are together in their own kind of little community? Did you sort of break through that?
Yeah, that was mostly broken through by the engagement and the championing of it of our exec chef and our up chefs.
Yeah.
They really got on board with it and engaged and created conversation and competition within kind of the tribe's umbrella that really resonated, because the kitchen teams always looked up and respected those exec chef and the up chef, and I think they wouldn't have had that relationship if I was pushing it, for example, from the people space.
It's as much as you can cross-pollinate relationships and stuff. I find in the back of house world, that's a people work for people thing. It's stronger. It's always like that. Having the confidence and the ability to measure that and go for it and invest such a large amount in, I don't know exactly how much, but it seems like a significant amount, because it's so, quite often it's really hard to demonstrate ROI on these sorts of engagement pieces, whether it's doing big parties or days out, and you can feel it on the ground, a sense of connectedness and a generally positive vibe, but that's quite hard to then link back to an ROI if you're not doing it consistently, and I think that's super smart.
It's really interesting doing it, I guess, back then, over 10 years ago, in a tech, I guess, like a tech forward way.
Yeah.
Because actually, people spend hundreds of thousands of pounds bringing their business together for a day, closing all their sites. And you do get that for the day. And you're right, Tom, it sort of echoes through the next 6 months of good feeling to some degree. But to be able to try and live it, a little percentage of it every day, through a platform,
what
is cool.
Yeah. Did you see any sort of pushback or negative element of it, of people getting sort of distracted with playing each other at chess when, if there was performance issues in a site, would it drop off, that sort of thing? Or was it generally a positive overall?
No, the schedule of the competitions or the events that would happen were always timed really, really well with kind of the day-to-day operation. I think the negative was, I think just some people just didn't engage with it because they didn't really want to be in a tribe.
Sure.
They didn't really think that it was something that they wanted to do at this point in their life. And I think that you get that everywhere. And I think the strategy for it wasn't to try to appeal to the masses. It was to try to let the community build itself through its strength, and that builds when it's driven by the people that are using it. It was great, and I think what, like you said there about the technology, we ended up with that winning the retailer, it was called at the time, best use of technology, which was a huge kind of accolade at the time. We'd got lots of best employer awards, but for tribes, a white kind of labelled app that we built to win an award in the people space for technology was pretty good.
Yeah.
It enabled us to get into the Times Top 100 as kind of one of the first hospitality companies into the top 10, and it was great.
And I think in my experience, the closer your sort of central team, I don't know what the best lingo is it head office, is it support team, companies call it different things these days, but there is a central team, say, who aren't operational, and ops team, people on the ground delivering the product every day. I'm assuming that everyone was involved and sort of across all the tribes.
Yeah.
So I think the closer those two parts of a business can be, the better. And if everyone understands you're trying to deliver a product and the ops guys are doing it and everyone else is sort of supporting them do it, I think that helps create momentum and create sort of consistent delivery. Did you see that? Do you see lots of that sort of cross-pollination or a massive improvement?
Yeah, I think it gave people a point of connection. And it opened up conversation, because you can ask people what tribe they were in, and then you we beat you at this, didn't we? And this, and it opens up a conversation when not necessarily an management accountant doesn't speak to a sous chef apart from kind of very rarely.
Yeah.
So I think it opened up conversations in that aspect. I don't think it created respect for other people's work. I think that came through kind of different people focused initiatives, a lot more in the kind of comms and learning and development space and awareness and strategy, those kind of things. But it definitely opened up connection, which in turn creates better working relationships. But because it wasn't about necessarily what people were doing in their day-to-day roles, I don't think it enabled better respect of each other's roles, which is what a challenge that we always face, which I think's kind of explained a lot through awareness and understanding and learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you think, like, was that one of the things that you still think back on as, like, you mentioned about your expansion being, you know, maybe like quite far afield? Like, do you think that is something that you look back on as a real connector of people? Because, I mean, I've worked in businesses where we've opened, you know, sites a few hundred miles away, and they've always felt a few hundred miles away. Like, did it really change the way people felt about the business?
Yeah, I think it did, and because they regularly had the opportunity to be brought together on things, whether that be virtually or in person. And also there were a lot of other things that were put in place, which I'm sure a lot of businesses put in when you're obviously opening new sites. We had a scheme called the Vanguard scheme, which you'd apply to join, and then you got to go and be the people that worked in that new site for a month, and those kind of things to try and connect people further. And a lot of investment in comms. And so people regularly updated, and the opportunities, kind of 80% of our GM roles were filled internally on our new openings. So we'd move people around, which other businesses do. And I think that's one of the best ways to make sure that your culture carries and people don't feel so disconnected. Because as you said, people work for people and their connections in the wider business.
Amazing. I'm kind of amazed no one else has done this.
Yeah, and from a technology perspective, like, there's obviously been a huge growth in, like, comms and engagement software and apps. But actually this gamification, like, I guess people often talk to me about, like, the reason we want to, you know, the reason we're going to create for people to use the comms app is we're going to show shifts in there. We're going to show the rota. We're going to make it so that you book holiday through there. And that's why people will use it. But actually what you've done is probably the smarter way, which is you get people to care about engaging with their colleagues.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because it's kind of, I know we'll talk about the kind of MBA course I did recently a little bit later, but when it comes to budgets and when it comes to getting sign off for things, the investment in the business, we all know how hard it is when we want to invest in any tech platforms, any new technology, any new spend. I think it's really hard in the people's space to demonstrate that and to have the right circumstances of investors and performance to be able to justify the spend when there isn't so much of a proven outcome, when you've got, say, a rotoring system that can quite clearly say this is going to save you 5% of labour, which is X. So I think that makes it quite hard to fight for the budgets, and probably experienced it across your careers as well. Budgets on things like training, they get cut first, straight out. Well, I'll take out the training.
They don't exist, so
yeah, they
just
don't
kind
exist.
Of sucked into the overall, which it never is really. Never knows that, but you know.
Yeah, take the training line out, absorb that into there, or do we need to have this team meeting this week? And I think that's quite difficult then in those environments to be able to justify investing to the extent of something like Tribes for businesses.
Yeah. How important was it that Chris, the CEO, at the time said it was his idea, or like he wanted to do that, so I had his backing. So do you think if it was an idea that had been brought to the board by someone else, it might have struggled? Or it kind of almost had like
it's
an
kind of an unknown, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I
sort
think,
of counterfactual. You never know, but
yeah, it will have, I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I think that it coming from the CEO and being kind of championed by them.
Yeah. So almost
we need people okay to make the investment and to take the risk, and it's hard. It's hard to convince other people. But you need to have some people on your side. And...
Yeah, I think that's the same with every decision that you
Yeah, for
make
sure.
though
Yeah.
to get your foot in the door, and then it's on you to then prove over the long run that the continuous investment is worth doing
Yeah.
And would you do it again?
in a different way now. Yeah.
In what way? What would be different? Or what's different in the way that it would work 10 years on? Either
Just I think all the advancements in technology now, like you could do so much more in the with connectivity and bringing people to kind of have more exposure to each other in multi-site now that better technology exists.
Yeah.
Do you think people would still engage with it? Like, do you think the team would, or has the world moved on in terms of like social media and I don't know?
I think it's very challenging at the moment in the market, and I think it's very hard to land something like that and it feel genuine if other aspects of the way that you're operating and to your team feel disingenuous. I think if you're taking things away, like shifts, hours, they're looking around and the equipment's broken, and then you try and layer on something like this, I think you're starting from a from a negative. I think you need to get all of those basics right before I would kind of jump in and suggest something like
Something
that.
shiny and new.
Yeah, I think because of kind of the struggles and everything through with the government or things dating back to COVID, I think there's a lot of basics for team members that maybe don't feel right now.
Yeah, and just the cost base of just doing business has just kept increasing, and so inflationary, supply chain increases have just made everything harder. And I experienced this in my own business, that energy was just shot up enormously, but also gave the opportunity to all suppliers who were suffering as well to just a flat increase in their prices. So every single line of your P&L went up because energy was the thing that hit all the costs. And it's unfortunately it's the thing that gets harder and harder to justify spend on those things that are hard to link to immediate sort of sales-driven activity or labour control stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for the team, it just doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
Because there are so many other things at the moment. No, not everybody, but there are so many other things that they probably would rather have solved first.
Yeah. I go back a bit. You talked about moving from manufacturing and engineering to hospitality, and you thought there were gaps and opportunities to make a massive difference. And I guess Tribes is sort of one of those, like employee engagement, one of those areas that perhaps you thought we could make a massive difference. What were the other things at the time that you thought was big gaps here? I want to get stuck in and solve some of these problems.
A lot from an L&D perspective.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of excellent craft training, but once that was done, there wasn't really much ongoing development in the space. There wasn't much progression apart from a linear path that was very much you come in, you're the bartender, and you might be the head bartender, then you might be the bar manager, and then you might be the agent. Yeah. It was very, very linear, and not everybody wanted to do that.
It's sort of like time-based, like you do a year in each one, and then you can probably get the promotion.
And you've not had the L&D training to support you to lead people. You're just excellent at making
really efficient bartender.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the best case scenario. In the worst case scenario, it's someone's left. They need a head bartender.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're the guy.
You're you.
You turn up. You've got two arms. Yeah.
So I think also creating pathways where people could move around in hospitality. So created a lot of learning programs around people coming into more area roles or central roles or being able to study at their own pace in other ways. And then the other one was benefits. I don't think at the time that the benefits of working in hospitality were particularly strong. So I saw that as an opportunity as well. Very much, I really don't like the same work-life balance. It's always been like for the last 15 years, I just really don't like it. So I feel like we framed everything on like work-life enhancement, because I think that you ebb and flow, don't you? Your work is your life and your life is your work, and sometimes you lean more one way, sometimes you lean more into family or sport or anything that interests you, but is one kind of ecosystem to me. And I think trying to frame benefits around what we actually give you that that you want that helps you in your life was another opportunity that I thought that was there as well. Big, massive pension schemes and things like that were in engineering that were I was processing.
And that stuff is, you get people just opting out because either they're kids and they're not interested in pension right now and they want all the cash.
Yeah.
Or people sending money back home who, have come here from abroad and again, they're not interested in a pension scheme, in sacrificing salary and stuff. I work for a business that we were really trying to think about what we could do to be better at benefits and innovate a little bit. And one of the things we came up with was giving all the managers a phone and paying the phone bill. It's like a small gesture then it repeats every month, and so you get a sort of reminder of like, oh, that's a nice thing. I don't have to pay for my phone bill. But the execution of it was a bit of a disaster because the package wasn't right. We had no data, and obviously the kids were just like downloading videos and spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on data that then became a problem we had to then manage. And basically everyone got scared and just put those phones in a drawer because they didn't want to rack up massive bills. And also they all had phones that were on 2-year contracts, and so it was like a good idea, but slightly just didn't quite ask the questions on what people wanted. And my reflection is it's always either a generic tick box, go to a sort of reward provider, get some points sort of thing that you can spend money on, get some vouchers or whatever. Sometimes that's good, it's not. Or it's gym membership or something. And not everyone wants that. Is there something that you have found that has really worked or been interesting or better than the average?
I think giving people the flexible options to choose them for themselves.
Yeah.
I think back then created a kind of a marvellous book of benefits, it was called. And basically it was like a checkbook, and you had an allocation of how many kind of the checks you could use, and they would have a number of different things in there. So some people might choose extra days holiday, some people might choose cheaper gym membership, some people might choose to have a rare variety of things that were in there, but giving people the choice to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And to choose it for themselves. And I think also being able to have investment pots for people to be able to educate themselves as well. I think that proved to be really, really, really good. And that was not just educating yourself in things that are relevant to work. We had a lot of people that would go and do IT courses or other things. And we put on a lot of language learning courses as well for people that couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
So yeah, a variety of different things. But I just think the opportunity in hospitality, and I think where hospitality is now, there's some amazing things that have happened in the industry for teams and for people. And I think it's kind of is a desired place to work now to some extent.
I'm sure more so than it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that sometimes we're hard. Like I said earlier, I think we allow a perception of the industry to persist without talking really aggressively out there about all the good things, and people take their cues from Gordon Ramsay off the TV or really old school views of the industry. And I've always experienced it to be a great place to work. Some frustrating things, but mostly it's a wonderful place to work. Otherwise, I probably would have gone and done something else. But it can be. I think once you've made your peace with the fact that it's really relentless, you can work long hours, but actually most progressive companies, most good companies, don't enforce super long hours, maybe like historically, and you can earn good money, and you can move fast. You learn amazing skills. It's really it's fun, and it can be hard. And you do work when other people are playing. Work evenings and you work over Christmas. But if you don't want to do that, you can sort of make your choice. But I think we need to really tell the story of hospitality a bit.
Well, we're almost still living in like the hangover of what we think the industry is like.
Yeah.
Like it's actually probably, you're right, it's not very like it used to be 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like we probably haven't even really ever lived through that part of it.
No, like it's not my experience, and I don't think most of the people I know in the industry is not their experience. But I've certainly seen a bit of that in some places. But you talked about education, like people going into education. And we touched on that you went and did an MBA. I think it's becoming more common that people going back into education from hospitality, but not necessarily a really common thing, maybe with some other industries. How was that experience?
I love learning. I think I'm just one of those people, even when I was little, my dad would say I was kind of toddler asking so many questions all the time about everything. Like I'm all very inquisitive. And I think what I've really enjoyed in my past kind of 5 years in the COO space is the variety and the variety and the ability to influence. And I think what attracted me to doing it was that I felt that the actual fundamentals of some of the areas of business, like we were talking about earlier, like economics and like strategy and those kind of things, I've never formally had any of that kind of education or had any understanding of any of the theory behind it. It's all just been from practical exposure. And also, as you say, I haven't gone through the day-to-day of kind of washing the pots through to leading the strategy. So I felt that there was maybe something I could learn from it, and all my education had been in the people space. And so, yeah, I kind of did it. It was really, really good. But I think what I've found from it is that it's very hard unless you have the experience of the industry to translate the theoretical to the practical, because it is very much grounded in theories that are built in the manufacturing space. And I think in the examples and the cohort that you're on, I've not found mine to be anybody in a similar
There's not many other
position as me.
hospitality operators there.
No, but whilst I think there's a lot of learning that can be applied from it, and obviously it takes a lot of commitment, but it is very much kind of extra tips on top of what have been learned through doing things practically, but also give you a bit of an understanding of why things happen the way they do in a board setting and how to influence them. So I think, yeah, it's been good, really good, but I've been enjoying really translating it back for myself for hospitality and leisure and consumer, because it isn't really mine.
Designed for that, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Most people don't go. I mean, MBA is generally for people who've been in industry anyway.
Yeah.
But do you think that it's definitely better to sort of have as much experience as you had in the boardroom and at high levels or C-suite level, and then go and do an MBA? Because I guess sometimes people do them in order to help them sort of get to that point, almost. Yeah,
there was a few in the cohort that were doing it in hope of kind of enabling higher positions for themselves, which I think is admirable. But I think when you can't relate it to something practical, and you're learning you're not learning all day every day like you were at school.
Yeah.
I think it's quite hard to grasp concepts when you've not got anything to play it back to or relate it to, apart from the examples that they give of things that have happened in the wider.
30 years ago.
Yeah, it always is as well.
The textbook examples that we talk about every time.
I think it's really difficult to not be able to know, oh, actually, that makes sense as to why at this point when we were looking at investing in this, the cash looked like this, for example. If you've never seen any of those kind of statements before, I guess it could be quite difficult.
Yeah, I guess there's a level of sort of multi-site managers, ops managers, and even heads of ops directors might not even get visibility of the hard sort of cash, sort of financial position of a company and the structure and how that all works and raising
and how that is quite different to
management
my
accounts.
P&L, management accounts every month. Like, my business is flying, I'm really good at that, and then you see the wider context.
Yeah, in the same way that at a site level, I guess sometimes assistant managers and junior operators are sort of shielded from the P&L because you think, I just want you running a shift, I just want you dealing with guests, dealing with a team. Don't worry about all that stuff. It's sort of distraction. I guess it's the same sort of concept that goes on. And maybe some people will get distracted, but I think most people will benefit from information, benefit from understanding the whole thing. I get there's some sensitive information and all that stuff. Do you think, having gone through that and learnt the theory behind the practicality and probably seen some of the practicality of it up front and then learn all the theory, do you think that's helped you understand all that stuff and being in a better place for the roles in the future?
Yeah, I think so. Particularly on like the financial side of things, because obviously that's not where I've kind of grown through. I've spent all of my time in the past kind of 5 years in the COO role on management accounts, on the P&L, on obviously investment and CapEx and those kind of things. But in terms of broader economic principles and cash positioning and investor ratios and those kind of things, those I would kind of skip past in a board pack. I'd literally, maybe it's a bit embarrassing to say, but I'd literally at the, those bits were kind of, I'd just turn them over. Whereas now I feel I really actually can bring challenge to those in some conversations, whereas before that I couldn't. So from that perspective.
And I know you've been writing recently about like translating some of this stuff back to real hospitality examples. What are the main things that have sort of like that you've really reflected on, or like would be useful for people to understand?
Being able to understand the theories behind influence, I think, is really, really good. I think being able to capture value in a business, so people can demonstrate value, but how to actually capture the value in what you offer, I think would be really interesting to people. And then the differences between cash and profit, I think a lot of people are kind of cheering and clapping, and I've always been the same of like, yes, EBITDA increase of 8%, but then you don't go any lower than that and you actually see, we can't invest in that, or we can't open this site without cash, or this is what the debt looks like. And I think that people should have exposure and understanding to that, so they understand how healthy a business is, or why it's different, why they're getting pressure when
got restaurant or like general manager, like site level managers who, some businesses are only targeting people on an even higher level of profit, not even EBITDA, on like management profit.
Management profit.
Whatever.
I'll still call it management profit forever.
And we grew up, there was like 3 different levels of profit on our P&L. But like you do that and suddenly you're taking people away from even, they're like, I am smashing it. And you're like, no, mate, your rent is like atrocious here. Like we need to be a whole different level. Because they don't even look at fixed costs.
Having looked at loads of businesses that as a sort of small independent business, you look at sites, you're trying to make them stack up, and really, the thing I've realised is you just never know. You see some businesses go bust, go pop, and they're doing tons of cash, and then you read about businesses doing huge debt, and they're taking huge top line numbers, and it's really hard to know. Like the industry is not on a level playing field. It's there's some people are freehold and they can relax and. And family-run businesses that want 2% growth every year, and then other people on huge leases, massive overheads, they're in massive debt, and they need to be generating huge amounts of profit, and it doesn't translate to the day-to-day operation, because sometimes you think these guys are amazing, they're doing brilliant things, and they are disproportionately affecting the perception of, we need to be as good as them. But they're losing lots of money. They're just over-investing in stuff, and and I would say it's really hard to. It's easy to run like a lovely restaurant or a lovely business. It's really hard to make it make money, make it make profit.
I think that's where the capturing value bit's really useful as well, because you think if you're busy, that's amazing. You're going to be profitable, but how have you got the value and on your occupancy at different times and those kind of things? That all of that stuff was really useful, which we all look at. And we all try to solve with trying to fill the dead times.
Yeah.
But actually, some of the kind of mathematical principles behind how you can do that more effectively were useful as well.
No, sure.
One thing you mentioned when you were talking about the things that were most useful or could be most useful to hospitality, you said influence. Like, tell me more about that. I'm kind of intrigued. I thought that MBA would be almost more covering, the sort of financial, the numerical stuff.
Yeah, so there's quite a big section on influence, actually. So in terms of, it's basically 3. So it's upward influence, lateral influence, and downward influence, and how you can effectively communicate in those different kind of sections really, and there's just a lot of behavioral science and psychology about how best to communicate to those different layers of influence when you've got the same basically root message to deliver. And I thought that was very interesting and would be interesting for a lot of people, because I think as you kind of move up through a business, you get exposed to a lot of different meetings, stakeholders, people with different levels of influence already than necessarily you have. And I think whilst you should kind of aim to always be true to yourself, there are better ways to position a statement depending on the audience. So if you're talking to a board or an investor, for example, you kind of really need to get to exactly what's going to happen and what the return will be. But if you try to do that, say that to your team, that's not going to work. So it was really kind of good for that. A lot of it you already know.
Yeah.
But actually putting a framework behind it allows you to identify it, spot it, and help other people, I think.
Yeah, that is a huge bit of learning in my career. Like, no one's really going to know what you're doing most of the time, so you just got to be really succinct when you tell them, and they don't really care. It's like a hard lesson to learn. I want to tell them everything. I want to, and I want them to understand what's really happening. And actually, you're so right. If you're talking to some directors who are interested in, or some investors who are interested in off-ramp and when they're going to get their money back, they're kind of not interested in what's going on with, some detail between the team falling out, which is why the standards aren't where they need to be on the ground, and that's why the sales aren't there. Don't care. What? Tell me what the numbers are. Tell me what you're doing about it. Tell me how we're gonna make some money out of this.
But equally, like down with your team, like just going in with sales were poor last week, guys. Like what that isn't going to win any hearts and minds. It's not going to, you got to do a whole different job of seeking to understand and
and that's never in any company values. Well, potentially is not in hospitality in my experience. Create massive shareholder value. That's not a value that you're selling to your team. It's always about engaging stuff, but there is the hard reality behind that sits behind.
But I actually think it should be
potentially
part of the sort of whatever you want to call it, vision, mission of a business is to usually do the thing that you do that adds value to your customers really fucking well in a way that creates shareholder value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are sometimes a bit scared of saying that.
Well, and for all the people we talk to, it's always the thing that people are motivated by is not, I want to make loads of money for an investor, or even I want to make loads of money. It's generally I want to, either I like working with people and creating opportunity for people, or I want to deliver something amazing. I want to give people a great time. I want to build great teams. And it's always kind of around that, but we almost don't admit.
But the reality,
it's like it's a dirty word or a dirty idea, but it kind of pins all a business,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that whether it's that or whether it's something else, I think there always needs to be I found this like through kind of being moved into kind of a COO role, is that everybody needs a common goal. Otherwise, there is too much department silo. And that becomes very difficult to affect change and build a business, especially when there is need for speed of change, or you're constantly having different things kind of thrown at you, or you want to innovate. I think that's an area that I think is like missing sometimes in businesses when you have, which I've been fortunate in all of my COO roles, I've looked after marketing as well. But I think when you separate too many functions out and there isn't that shared goal of the business, then all the individual departmental goals will take the hierarchy, and then it's very difficult then to affect change across the whole business.
Different directions, different speeds.
Yeah, and a million different metrics. There's so many things you can measure, and sometimes you create so many layers in the business, and it kind of removes that intense focus on singular goal. A bit of a general question as we're sort of talking about values and stuff. What is it I guess gets you going about your job, your industry? What motivates you? What is it the thing that you want to achieve?
From a values perspective, I really value authenticity, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because sometimes me being really authentic isn't necessarily what people want to hear or see. But that is a really kind of strong value of mine. I like variety and creativity and being able to have trust with people. That's really important to me in the environments I work in, and I like for it to be able to create space for people to be themselves and to think. But kind of what motivates me is being able to have an environment that does those things.
So sort of creating that environment for a business or other people.
Yeah.
Whatever the business is. So a little bit off piste.
I think we've gone a bit off piste anyway.
Yeah, there was no piste. We started off piste. I was talking to some guys who are based in Manchester recently, and they talked about. I interviewed a few people who are all from in and around the Manchester area, near where you live, and they talked about this concept. It was almost like a brand of northern hospitality. Is that something you resonates with you? You've heard of? It's like something slightly different. I don't know if that's a concept that people have kind of come up with or talk about, but I think I know sort of what it feels like, what it means. What do you think the differences are with?
I think I've heard it a lot. I think the main differences are pace of service, so attentiveness of service. Yeah. So I think in the north, I think people have a lot more time to engage with you in hospitality. It's not as in and out as it is in London. Sometimes for me, London's a little bit transactional, not all the time, but you're kind of in and quickly, efficiently served, great food, you're kind of out. Whereas northern hospitality, it really is welcoming people into your home. It's always making sure that you all understand your kind of roles as you're hosting these people in your environment. This environment is their third space to be. So it's very much grounded in the attentiveness of the service, the familiarity of the service, and a slower pace of service.
Do you think that's something structural though? Because what you're describing is basically what
we would all say we want.
we want it everywhere. Where geographically,
if it's just outside of London, and it's probably just.
Did you feel that in London? Do you feel it's fast and more transactional?
Yeah, there is great businesses, great operators in London, and loads of the best brands have been formed out of London. But for me, when I get to London, being like from up north, I get into London and I'll go for a drink or I'll go for a meal or go for a brunch, but I feel rushed. Everything about it, for me, very rarely do I have an experience where I don't feel that I'm really sat on top of somebody and I'm one of many people that need to get out of here in 10 minutes and I've got to run to get the tube, and it just feels different. And then I'll go somewhere up north. Well, you've been up north recently.
Yeah. Like, I think actually,
I feel that you can dwell, and I can.
We sat in a cafe for 2 or 3 hours the other day, and actually, I got a super warm welcome. I got lovely service, like whenever I needed. Like, it probably did feel different than if I'd have sat in a similar cafe.
Yeah, and we didn't have to order anything else. We sat there for a long time. And I know it's probably not the best kind of commercial strategy if you looked at it on paper. But in the longevity. But I think if you're talking about the structurally, I think it's just a lot of it has been born from the training that came out of Living Ventures and then has spawned and grown across
and there are
the north and from TGIs as well.
Yeah.
Back in the day, a lot of the founding businesses that we've grown to love in hospitality have some thread back.
I mean, we don't have time to get into it, but like there are a few businesses, TGIs, probably Living Ventures. I'm not as familiar, but like there are a few businesses. There's a whole host of people that came out of an age of revolution.
Yes,
and it is just the most awesome crew of like hospitalitarians that I've met, and it is. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Actually, we should deep dive on it one day because it is interesting. How do you create that, and then it's literally it goes for a generation.
Yeah,
through businesses that those people go to.
And that is where it comes back to kind of what I was saying at the very beginning in terms of that sometimes that buzz can allow businesses that maybe if the food isn't the best food on the planet, like some of the places you have in London, or it's not the most innovative concept, but that level of kind of hospitality and that creation of kind of that third space that's comfortable for people outside of their work and their home, I think that's really strong.
It feels right. Like the overall feeling of the business feels right, kind of.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just northern. I think northern's a strange way for people to put it, because I just think it means
Proper
just not.
hospitality.
Sure, I think everything you're describing is, like I said, is what everyone would want everywhere.
Yeah,
It's kind of not specific to the north, but there is a thing about it, and I recognise that, and I don't know if it's part of London and the perception. It's like, I had a horrible tube journey today. It was packed, and so you get off, you're a bit frustrated, and everyone is rushing around. There's more people everywhere.
yeah.
And I was up in Manchester with some people who hadn't been and hadn't spent much time outside London actually, and said, "God, it's so quiet." And I said, "Well, it isn't actually. Everywhere's packed. All the restaurants are packed. There's just not as many people on the street, so it feels a bit more relaxed. It feels a bit more space, and it's just maybe that it's a perception thing. Maybe I don't know.
I think it's also a pride thing. I think a lot of like northern operators, I think because so much is centred around London as the capital, I think that there's so much pride in being part of northern hospitality, and that I think that also carries through as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I spoke to my dad this morning. He pocket dialed me. And I also get a bit of panic when my dad, you get a phone call from your dad at 8 a.m, you think, what's going on here? You know? And I phoned him back, and he was telling me about his mum and dad had been in Yorkshire, just touring around in a camper van, and he loved it. And he said, people in Yorkshire are so friendly, are so amazing hospitality everywhere. And he sort of said, in contrast to a lot of places in the south, and I don't know exactly where he was talking about, but
so he's lived it recently.
And I literally sort of said it this morning, and he was he felt that. Yeah,
it's similar in leisure as well, though. Like recently being in leisure, even the customers, they review and rate everything more highly there.
Just in general.
Yeah, and then with the teams, like the teams always, when they move around sites and they come up north, they're like, the customers are so friendly and the customers are so nice. And I think it's...
We're just stressed out in London.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's leisure sites in the middle of London, and there just always seems to be a little bit of frustration or a battle or tension, but I'm sure that's not everywhere, and I do love London, and
we're not here to
I'm not yeah
well, come to the Tav, have a come and have a drink in the Tav. Lovely, relaxing,
northern
suburban. We do have a few northerners, wonderful. Okay,
cool. Well, look, we're out of time there, so thank you so much, Natasha. That was brilliant, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.